Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to see how we can achieve lazy loading or pagination in MS Graph APIs, where we want to scroll, we want to get the data from a long list or any library or even OneDrive items. So majorly we are going to see lazy loading or on-demand loading from MS Graph API of SharePoint list items into PowerApps only, but the same concept can be applied to any C# custom component with MS Graph API where you want to leverage, you want to retrieve the data from SharePoint sites, irrespective of list items or document libraries. And the same thing can be applied into SharePoint SPFX components or custom web parts where you just want to fetch the long list data and would like to do a pagination, would like to just get the data into batches and then work with the MS Graph API. So over here, I'm showing you one of the PowerApps screen where I have implemented this lazy loading. Just want to demo you this first so that you can understand what I mean by at one time at the load itself, we are going to just load the 10 items, and thereon the items in the background we will be keep on fetching from MS Graph API and keep on adding to this collection. So right now this my list which is into my one of the SharePoint site, it does have a lot of items, more than I think 800 items, and but I just don't need to show or load everything in one shot because that may impact the performance of the screen, and as well as like in your scenarios it could be different, but still like we just want to showcase only the demanded data rather than like doing the actual loading of entire 800 records or 1000 records in one shot. So over here I'm just doing a clear load. Over here you will see, so initially only 10 items would be recorded, but as time passes it keeps on adding to my this collection, and now I have more than 50-60 records, and it will keep on adding based on my pagination settings. So I can achieve this using one load more button, or I can have the pagination, the page arrow front and next. So right now I just want to explain you the concept how you can achieve it. So I'm just clearing it, closing it, and then we'll start building our own component. So first of all, as I said, like I want to fetch the items from my this financial sample list, which is a long list which is having more than 800 items. I wish to like first of all get the items from my MS Graph Explorer. So over here I have opened this MS Graph Explorer where you can just put on your MS Graph API endpoints. So for me is Graph API /win, so it's very much into production and sites, and over here we would be providing the site ID. If you don't know how to provide the site ID, then you can just go search the sample for get site, or you can just say site. So you will get the help from this already created endpoints for getting a SharePoint site by based on relative name. So over here you can specify the site, and then you can specify the relative path of the site and then fetch that site ID. So for me, if I just say my organization's default ID, if you run this query and in the sample, in the response, you will get this site collection ID over here. So it's ID, so you can copy this ID, which would be the ID of your site. And the same way you can fetch your site based on the relative path as I showed you into the different host name, your host name of your tenant, and then relative path. Let's say it's your site name is, let's say, source, and then you can specify source and then it will give you the same response. So that's where you can copy it. And how to get the list ID? So because if I go to our history and if I open this endpoint, so we would need our list ID as well so that we can just fetch the items from this list. So how to get that? So again, go to sample queries, search for list. So you will get in SharePoint part, enumerate list in the root site collection or based on your site ID. You can very well enumerate that, and instead of this you can specify your site ID over here, which is GUID of your site, and then list, and once you enumerate you will get the list ID. The same way I got this URL constructed for my environment, and I would be extracting all the fields because I should be showing that into my this gallery. So over here, if I run this query and if I go down, I would be finding into my values that all the fields related to my list columns are coming up over here. So we just need to expand select fields and expand fields so that we can get out the item values, the column values, the same column values which we are having over here. And I'll just, if I just don't do any top, like if I just want to fetch only top 10 records or doing a batching of 10 records, then it will give me by default 200. So I'll just do top 20 records so that only 20 records I should get, and we'll do a batching on 20 records. And if you go over down, you will see only 20 records would be served over here. And the important thing which is key for us in this demo, this OData next. So what it gives us a by default the next URL of our next batch. So rather than we would be doing it top 20 and skip 20, this MS Graph API, this endpoint itself giving us a attribute which gives us a direct URL for our next load. So if I just directly copy this entire next link, and again we'll go to our this get with this endpoint, you will see that we must be getting a next batch. So if I scroll down, and we'll see the ID of my this next batch, it should be starting from 20. So if I just scroll up, yes, it's starting from 21 because it's a second batch of our this query. So this is how this OData next gives us the URLs for our next batch of queries. So we have this key attribute which is skip token, and this skip token keeps on changing as soon as we hit the next link into our, as soon as we run the next link into our API. So if I copy this one and then hit it, then it will give me a next set of 20 records. So same way we are going to just fetch out this OData next link, and we would be querying with this new updated URL to get the new updated record. So same concept would be lying wherever you want to use this MS Graph API, either into C# custom components or into SPFX web part or in PowerApps. So I'll show you like how you can do it in PowerApps. So we'll go to our PowerApps screen and we'll start creating one Power App from scratch. So over here we'll just drag first of all one button, and then we are going to get a vertical gallery, and then we are going to just find the input or the text label which we want to show. So I'll just go to my gallery again. So I'll just keep on copying this label so that we can place this as in different columns. I'll just move this and increase my galleries, right? So in this button, which is we'll be using as load button for the initial load, you can do that into app on start or visible on visible screen, but for demo purposes I would be writing that onto my this load only. So we have to start by adding our data source as Office 365 group so that we can make a query to our this HTTP request. So I'll just select Office 365 groups, add this, and on select of a button we would be just doing this set for our gallery items, I would say, and then we will be using Office 365 group HTTP request, and over here we would be passing the API endpoint from MS Graph Explorer, and in get and in file we'll be passing, it's a get call, so we need not to pass anything into our file. So I'll just copy this from Graph Explorer, the initial endpoint. Rather than skip one, I'll just go to my history to pick my initial endpoint, and I will just say this one as top 10 rather than 20 this time. And the same thing I am going to copy into our Power App. So we have this formula, and now we get this gallery items, which is nothing but a JSON. If we are going to run it, and if you watch that into a monitor, then you will see that we are getting a response out of it. So I'll just quickly run it, and I click on load. And if you go to your advanced tools, I'm just giving you a debugging tip. If something is not working as expected, then you can go to your open monitor, and with that open monitor you can just view what different actions or the calls is being happening. So it's connected. We'll just run it again and load it and go back to our app monitor. So we got this HTTP success. You can open this one, you can see like what response you got. So we got this response, which is in table. We can convert that into JSON tree. So this is our response body, which we are actually interested in. So same thing again, I am going to go back into my PowerApps and into this load. Now I am going to start creating a collection out of this. So I'll just say ClearCollect so that my collection can be always cleared, and I'll just say gallery master items, because I'm going to keep appending the next batch of items to the master items, and we are creating this from this gallery item. So I'll just say gallery items.value, but this is an untyped object, so I need to convert that to table. So now I have this gallery master item. So this master item I can assign to this gallery. So I can just go back to the screen view, and we'll just bind this gallery items to our gallery, and we'll just set up this item values to our value which we are interested into. So we'll just fetch that item value from field. If I will go back to this API response, and we'll just see the attribute names, and this is fields, and fields we are going to extract, let's say, title out of it. So I'm just going to add this fields dot title. So we got this populated with title, and we can same way we can just copy the other column, and we can do this as field underscore one, because my column name is underscore one and I just copy this one and do a paste. We can just show the product name over here, and that should be coming from my feed too, right? So this is how we just bind it up our gallery. Now the first thing of loading up the items is done. So in second thing, as I said, like we are going to extract the OData next, so that we can just use this next URL or the OData next URL for our subsequent calls, rather than making or skipping in our REST way, like where we used to create SharePoint top and then skip token. No, we skip top. No, so we are going to use this direct URL. So to extract that, we are going to take help of our string functions. So we are going to just do a manipulation of this value, because this is a JSON value. The entire response is JSON. We will be just converting that to string and extracting out this OData next value. So I have already written that function. I'll just paste this, and we'll also paste in the description so that you can also directly pick in. So I'll just copy this next link start, and I'll show you what I mean by this is, so this is next link start position. As in the response you saw, like we have this response. So I just want to find out the position of this OData next link. The position is index of this string, and then later on I'll just split by this column, so that I would be knowing like this is the data, which is the URL which is inside it. So in Power Automate it's very simple to do this operation, but as we are dealing with PowerApps over here, so these operations are a bit complex, and we need to find a way to extract this out. So I'll be just using this next link start position, and we are going to put this gallery item into this JSON, because this is a JSON. We are just converting that JSON, and once we have this link start position, let's say it's 145 or 150, then we are going to find out the end position from this comma, as I said, and we are going to just pass this link start position, so that we will find this comma from our link start position, let's say 150, until like we receive comma. So don't worry about the complexity of the formula. I'll just paste into the description. You can directly pick it from there. And this next link, we are going to create that into a variable, and we are just going to replace our earlier gallery and the position which we found, POS, and this position is again link start POS position. So in this one, in the last one, what we are doing, we are extracting the string in between of our starting position and the end position, and we are appending the length of this item, I mean this text which we wish to like fetch out, this one. So once we execute this part, and if we are going to see what we are getting in next link, then you will get to know that this next link is a URL which is having skip token, and again that would work like a batches. So I'll just drag one text label, and this one I'll just, for the sake of just viewing, we should see it as next link, so I'll just set that as next link. So we should be knowing that we are able to extract the next link properly or not. So I'll just do a run, again load, and then this next link we are able to extract properly without any issues. So this next link URL, we are going to just make another call. But how to decide when to make a call? So for that, there are 2-3 ways. Like if you wish your gallery to load the data on some icon or load more icon click, then you can just put that icon into your this canvas page, and then click on click of that, you will write the same operation, but this time the URL would be this one, the end URL. And if you wish to like constantly doing a background process of loading this all the batches and appending to the same list, then you can do the same way, the way which I did with a timer, like it keeps on running and then adding the data to it. So I'll just again explain you how you can just add a timer and then can leverage the timer's auto refresh or the timer and specific event to just keep on adding the data to our existing list. So I'll just pick timer control, and this timer control I'll move to the right, and I need to set few conditions for this, few properties for this. It's a repeat true and auto start true, and over here then we will be setting one more thing, that would be on timer and this one. So this formula we are going to set, I'll just select that from this top panel so that we can get a better area to write the formulas. So I'll just say on timer and over here we'll copy the same set of operation from our load, but this time we are going to change the UI and a bit of the functions as well. So I'll just first of all copy this on timer and everything, and this time this endpoint would not be this endpoint, would be we would be reading from our next link, because in next link we already get the next link of our next batch. And over here, instead of ClearCollect, because we want to append, we are going to just do a append of our this gallery item. So over here, instead of overriding it, I'll suggest like you can just do a gallery next item so that you should not be confusing with the variable. So I'll just replace this variable and this one, again this one. This is a new gallery or the JSON we want to interpret, because every time when we make a call, this Odata.NextLink would be changing, and replacing this to next gallery. Now we would be good, and this nextLink variable would be updated as soon as this timer ends. And we want to, again we missed one thing, to set this timer duration. So it's just set that to 1 second, so that every other second it should make a call and refresh our this gallery. So I'll just run it again, and I'll just do a load and clear, and over here you can watch that this this next link is keeps on changing, and this our gallery is keeps on adding the new data and sort of in a lazy loading fashion. So in any other custom components, if you are using this with let's say SharePoint custom SPX part where you want to just do a paging of 20, then with the scroll bar events you can very well control, like if we are dragging to that bottom of our page, let's say this one, if we are dragging to the bottom of page, same like SharePoint list, we can implement it. You can just again call the Odata.NextLink, just keep on loading, and we are not torturing our page with a lot of data at once. And this gets more worse like when we deal with the images into our gallery. So I always suggest, like if we are working with MS Graph API, then just leverage this OData link, next link, so that we can make a app like with a performance oriented stuff. So I think like I'm clear with this concept that how you can implement the lazy loading or pagination. You can have the controls next and previous, and on those controls you can very well load the data. So this is for today's video. If you have any questions and if you want me to explain it further, then I would be happy. So that is it for today. Thank you.